Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it. But
increased, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you. Welcome, everybody, to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovesi, and thank you for joining us here each Wednesday. We go live 1 p.m. Eastern Time here on LinkedIn, and we'll be putting this out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and on YouTube if you want to catch the replay. But I'm smiling big because in the prior 2 weeks, I was solo. If you caught us, I was solo with our guest, which is always fun. But I got my co-host, my sidekick. Well, he's not my sidekick. He is the Master Connector. He's Steve Spiro. He's back from vacation, refreshed and refired up to join us with a new amazing guest. And Steve's great at booking amazing people. I don't know where he finds them. I don't know how he finds them, but he brings some of the best people you'll ever want to hear from. People who are going to share their stories, their skill sets, their experiences on how they leveled up to excel at what they do. And look, you hear me talk about this all the time. If you tune in, we're all on a journey. We're all trying to further our success and our opportunity. And we have this knowledge base. And in between knowledge bases, there are gaps. We want to fill in those gaps to create a nice, strong path to success. And we do that by learning from other people. So look, we hope you're tuning in every single week to the Master Connector Show here on LinkedIn. But look, if you can't, we hope you can bookmark it on your calendar. But if you can't, go to masterconnector.show and you can see who's coming up. Because if you've got a, busy schedule, but you want to catch some of this, you can see who's coming on the show, what guests are coming on. Maybe their background appeals to you or what they do or what their message is. You can bookmark it. Go there, masterconnector.show. You can also sponsor an episode there. If you want to sponsor an episode and get the word out about your business, you can do that there. And while you're here, if you're tuning in live, listen, comment, share this out. This is about connecting. It's about connecting with other people. And you do that by these interactions. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We've got a guy on here. He comes in, Samuel. He comes in every once in a while. He's from Kenya. I mean, look, you get people coming in from all around the world. Word is getting out. You don't want to miss what we're doing here. And if you have any questions for us or a guest, put them in the comments and we will get those answered for you. Because I know when I'm listening to somebody, I always have questions. This Steve jokes around with our guests beforehand in the green room. He says, Rob's going to interrupt you. No doubt. He always interrupts me because he wants to find out a little clarity, a point of clarity about something that's mentioned. Because I know if I've got questions, you must have questions. And we want to have the opportunity to answer those for you. Today is going to be a great show. Rise and go. What does that mean? You're going to find out. I think that we're going to find out that results come from a place we didn't quite expect. So listen, my buddy Steve and I, we go back 27 years, two former shy guys, two introverts. It's an energy thing. I still get really tired after a lot of speaking. But look, we're not shy anymore. We've become master connectors, but he is the master connector. Help me bring him back from his 2-week vacation. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
What's up, Robbie G? Great to be back. I'll be honest. I love being away. We had a blast. It was incredible being in Bali and Singapore. But I really was looking forward to coming back and being with you and being with the incredible community. So good to be back here. Appreciate you, sir, big time. And excited to get the ball rolling here. What's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct back in the States. And I am excited to talk to you here. And listen, I heard the phrase, every setup is a setback for a comeback. And, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how things are going to happen. Obstacles are going to hit you, right? They're going to come at you. You're going to get challenges. And one of the big pillars of our show is the 4 pillars, one being, overcoming obstacles and having that grit to overcome obstacles. And so, but you know what? Those challenges don't define us, right? They don't set our future. We have the ability to face them and rise up and go forward and build on them. Many of you guys know that I have a background being learning disabled, dyslexic, and I feel like that challenge was one of the best things that happened to me because it taught me how to overcome and be better and be creative in my problem solving. And yeah, I don't learn the way the average person learns, but so what? We have the ability, as I spit and slobber all of myself. See that? It doesn't matter, right? It's like, we are who we are, right? And those challenges become something that we can kind of build on and really recreate our future and not just wallow in it, right? It's not what happens to us, but it's how we react to it, right? And how we respond to it. And that's what we're going to talk about, and how to overcome and rise. So I'm excited. I don't want to talk more because I'm super excited to have him be introduced. But if you're ready, put in the comments, #let's go. We're LinkedIn participants, not LinkedIn lurkers. So get in the comments right now, and I'll pass it over to you, Robbie G. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Steve. Hey, as he said, let's go. Cory Carlson is someone who knows what it means to succeed in business and what it takes to succeed at home. Cory was a corporate executive leading a $120 million division and later became president of sales for a national contractor. From the outside, he was winning, but inside, life felt off balance. That all changed when he hired an executive coach. The transformation inspired him to help others do the same. Now a sought-after executive coach, speaker, and author, Cory has helped over 190 leaders through one-on-one and group coaching and delivered more than 115 impactful talks on how to win both at home and at work. His coaching focuses on purpose over profits, time management, intentional leadership, and living a life of alignment. He's the author of Win at Home First and a man on a mission to help high achievers thrive. Please welcome to the show, Cory Carlson. What's up, Cory?
Rob, what's going on? Steve, good to see you again. Hey, thank you for this intro. I love the energy you two bring to a show. It makes it fun for a guest. So thank you.
Thanks for coming.
It's all for you, sir. We're doing it all for you, right? Absolutely.
I doubt it. After seeing that hype video, man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Listen, we're all about impact here today, and so that's really what it's about, right? None of this is for our glory, but it's for the glory of our in my case, and I think you're the same. We share the same faith, our Heavenly Father, and really to ultimately to make an impact and make the world a better place. But here we go. Let's get the ball rolling here. So community. If you're ready, we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about, what separates great leaders, but type in #resilience leadership. Let's get into this right now. So, hey, Cory, so question here. What separates great leaders from the rest when they're flat on the mat? And I can relate. I've, being in the martial arts many years, I can relate being flat on the mat. But yeah, let's have your perspective. And by the way, welcome the amazing Yolanda. She's incredible. Appreciate you, Yolanda, big time. Anyway, go for it, Cory, if you could.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that separate the great leaders, and I think even each of us in our own lives, there's times we get knocked down and we get up quicker than other times, and I think there's a variety of reasons that may take place. For me, one area that I notice is depression is the absence of hope. And not that I've ever been like clinically depressed, but there are those times I've got knocked down and I'll get in a funk. I'll get depressed. I won't want to do anything. Depression is the absence of hope. So what I like to keep track of is, and I actually have it on my whiteboard right now. I just did this exercise this morning, is, hey, what dreams do I want to be true in 3 years? Like, I like to be thinking about what's up ahead. What am I dreaming for? What am I hoping for? And so I'll do that on a whiteboard. I track it also in a Excel spreadsheet. So that's one item, what we're thinking of. But then there's also items even more short-term that are in our calendar. And I'll work with clients to encourage them is, what do you have hope for in the coming months in your calendar? It could be a vacation. It could be date night. It could be meeting up with the guys. It could be a variety of different things, but having those markers in our calendar that bring hope. So that's one item for sure is, what brings you hope. A second one is community and having what community looks like. So we have got to identify who are those people in our life that we want to spend time with. Because when we get knocked down, a lot of times we just isolate. But if we've got community that we're doing some orbits with, that'll help us.
So, Cory, if I could just jump in here for a second. So, when I hear you talk about having hope and those dreams that you want to be real in, say, X amount of time, one of the things that I learned a long time ago was, it sounds dumb to a lot of people, but put a picture of what you want on your fridge so you see it every day, right? Because you pass by your fridge multiple times a day. And I thought that was really corny at one time. But 20 years ago, my wife and I put a picture of a house on there, and we were broke. I mean, we were on government assistance, broke, not poor, because we were still strong in our mind. But, we just finished building that house last year. And so it took a long time. But like, are we talking about that kind of thing where you've got to keep it out in front of you, like hope for that, but working towards it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love the idea of having the pictures at the end of my book, Rise and Go, I talk about building a Rise and Go manifesto. And when I wrote this book and published it, and a few years ago, I didn't come up with the idea of a manifesto. Other people have manifestos, but this idea is I wanted something that I could go to from a variety of like I am statements. I've got kind of this section on, hey, I've won before. I have a section on there that God has the night shift. But one of those items, Rob, is, what are some activities that I want to do with my loved ones? And I want to take my family to Europe for a family vacation. So I've got a picture of the Eiffel Tower in this, vision section that I will, look at occasionally to help get my why figured out. From big wedding anniversaries coming up, thinking that through, paying attention to our kids and kind of how old they are and where they're at. That idea of, hey, teach us to number our days so that we may have wisdom. Well, if you think about how old your kids are, there's only so many days they'll be left in the house and then they're gone. Or how many days until maybe, they get married, have their own family. So trying to be intentional with that time. So in that vision piece, as you mentioned, that's what I'm trying to capture.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned something before, right? And I know we're in a maybe not as bad as it was before the year started, but we're in still a very politically sensitive, politically correct world, and God often has been taken out, right? I people say, why do you want to bring in God? I'm like, why wouldn't you bring in God? I mean, I don't know. You if you want to call him God, you call him higher power. You can call him whatever you want. But to me, he's God. And I know you mentioned something before about God has a night shift. And I'd love to hear. So, community, type in hashtag divine dependence, not divine independence, but divine dependence. I love that. And so what do you mean by God has the night shift? And I think I get it, but I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in 2020, I went from corporate all into coaching. And this has been kind of, brewing up the years leading up to that moment. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to leave corporate and go into coaching. And I had a 20-year corporate career. At one point, I hired an executive coach, and it kind of, just changed my life. I was able to zoom out, had outside perspective of my life, had accountability, had encouragement from a coach, and I just started living differently. Because I love the transformation I saw in my own life, I was president of sales. In my corporate life, I was leading like a coach. I was talking about home and work. When I saw that they got better, plus company EBITDA improved, I was like, I want to do this for a living. And so that's what happened is we stair-stepped into it. And on March 1st, 2020, my family and I made the decision we're going all in to coaching and speaking. It's going to be amazing. Well, Friday, March 13th, the world gets shut down because of COVID. Stay at home, have to wear the mask, all those items that came out in March 2020. Well, for me, we talk about falling down. I was mad. I was angry. I was scared. And I was frustrated at God because it's like, hey, I followed all these green lights. I stair-stepped from corporate into this space. I kind of did my end of the deal. What about you? You didn't do your end of the deal, God. And so I was frustrated. And over the course of those months, God took me on an awesome journey. And I learned stories of resilience. I saw items in scripture that helped me start to get back up. Well, one of those was this phrase, God has a night shift. I was reading Psalm 127, 1 and 2, and in it says, unless the Lord builds the house, he who gets up early labors in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the area, the person in the watchtower stays awake in vain. And so as I'm reading this, I'm like, getting up early, staying up late, working. That's what I was doing, because when you leave corporate and you go into coaching, it's you never want to stop. It's like there's always someone on LinkedIn to meet. I need a new speaking engagement. I need a new client. Come on, let's go. And so I didn't know how to shut it down. While I was reading this verse, I kind of got this audible that God has a night shift. And I was like, and I get it. He's got the day shift. He's got the morning shift. He's got all the shifts. I get it. I get it. But the language that I need to hear is he has a night shift. Meaning, if I bust my tail off from 8 to 5 and I am doing LinkedIn, I'm doing podcasts, I'm sending out the emails, all of quality and of excellence. If I'm doing my end of the deal, then when work's over, I can be present with my family. I can hang around and have a family dinner. I can go to the gym. I can go for a walk because God has a night shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard the phrase, we do the sowing, he does the growing, right? So like, you're sowing seed, but ultimately God, universe creates that, that harvest, right? It's not you're planting, but ultimately it's in him. It's on him. And that's happening in a way during the middle of the night, so to speak, right? If you think
Absolutely.
about it.
Yeah. I one of the profound truths that I've learned in all my years on earth, all the things now, again, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Steve and I go back 27 years. So Steve remembers the person that I used to be, I was not winning. Let's put it that way. But as I learned a very strong work ethic, because I didn't always have it, I was pretty kind of lazy as a younger guy. When I was working like you do, I was smiling, Cory, because I spent 25 years in corporate, left, and did the same thing. I was just telling my son, who's now 18, like I would go from morning till 1 a.m. designing, building websites. That was my first business, and just nonstop and passing out and getting up the next day and doing it again. Until I learned that the only thing, I think the most important thing I ever learned is I'm not in control. I'm only in control of, how I treat other people and my attitude, right? Those I can control, but those are inputs. The output, the results. When I first heard you say God's got the night watch, I knew exactly what that meant. Mm-hmm. I am not in control of the results. I can only do what I can do. And at the end of the day, every good thing, I call it blessing. Every blessing in my life, people go, that's lucky. Oh, lucky you got that client, came out of nowhere. No, it's just that's how you get rewarded. It keeps you humble, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
No doubt. So that is a perfect setup, Rob. I appreciate that. We want to talk about inputs, right? And like we're talking about outcome, but there's also the input factor to the output, right? So, I wrote a book called the Tao of the Master Connector, right? And in that book, I talked about the secret of the corn. And you can't plant corn and get apples, right? You're going to plant. Well, thank you, Rob G. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good.
But you're planting corn and you're going to get corn, right? You get what you sow. You reap what you sow, right? And so the inputs matter, right? You sow bad things, you're going to get bad things back, right? So community, type in hashtag input matters. And I want to ask you this. When you can't control the outcome, how do you stay focused on controlling the input?
Yeah, man, it's great. I love that corn example. I think that's good. I need to check out that chapter. The inputs, man, they're a lot. I mean, they're just not work related either. So for me, some things I got to make sure I'm doing to control the inputs is making sure I'm in a good spot mentally. Yep. And so what that looks like for me is getting up in the morning and working out. making sure I work out. That's an input that I need to have so I can show up as my best self. Next is quiet time. Doing quiet time involves, for me, scripture and journaling and prayer. That's what I do for my quiet time. And so that's kind of on the front end before work starts, and obviously getting to connect with my family. And then it goes into work. And I've got some inputs that I'm paying attention to that I'm tracking. I want to see how many, I want to do a LinkedIn post a day. At minimum, I want to have at least 10 LinkedIn DMs a day where I'm connecting with individuals. There's a certain amount of podcasts I want to record and webinars. How many talks do I have? As well as, trying to write, as I've written books, is trying to write so many words a day. It's like, those are inputs I can control to make sure I'm doing, kind of my part. And I've got some KPIs that I track and review. And then at the end of the day, the inputs that I look to do is, having family dinner. That fills me up. That is a high priority in our house. Now, we don't get to hit it all 7 days a week because of sports and travel. Whoever's in the house, we're sitting around the table, we're talking, phones are put away. And then hanging out with the family, my phone is put away. And then at the end of the day, I started this actually in 2020, but I write down 3 things I'm grateful for from the day and 3 goals I have for the next day. And those are just some bookends to what I need to do to take care of myself. And then, I take care of my KPIs during the day.
And I just want to clarify something for the audience, Cory. Clearly, Cory, you're successful, right? We've heard about your background. You're an executive coach. You're a speaker. Right? You're giving talks to people. You're teaching them, groups, one-on-one. You're an author of a book or 2, right? A couple books, I think.
Yeah,
so
2 books.
You have success. And now you're talking, well, wait a minute. How does Cory do all that and still have dinner with his family and still do the sports and still do the prayer and still do the reading and still how do you do all that? And I think the message is that what people don't really understand is you have to just build those into your day. You don't go, oh, let me work and work and work and work, and whatever's left over, let me give my family the leftovers. Or I tried to read, but I didn't have time. I ran out of time. I wish there were more hours in a day. So audience, listen, it's about intentionally making the time to do some of the things that Cory's talking about. Intentionally build them into your day. That way you always get those things done, because I think, we would all agree that, the success isn't about the bank account only, right? That's how you build a lifestyle or support your family. But the fact that you're there with them, that's where the dividends pay, right?
And absolutely. One thing I do want to make sure I do say is I'm not perfect. I mean, there's moments I'm in my quiet time and journaling, and I shorten it because I'm like, I got to get this email off. Or I'm just not focused. So I am not perfect at all. I think what I would say is I have these ideas of how I want to do my morning and my evening, and even parts of the actual 8 to 5 part. I've got ideas of what I know would be my ideal day. But when I get off track, the good thing is if you have a structure, you can always recalibrate to it. If you have no structure, if you got no idea what you want to do or where to be intentional with your life, then there's a sense of wandering. But at least by having what you want your ideal day to look like, you can recalibrate. So if I have a week of travel, or maybe I lost a key client that week and it kind of messed me up, at least I can look to recalibrate going into the next week.
Yeah. Good stuff. I think that's part of, I wanted to add in there. Steve looks like he's frozen a little bit, but I want to add something in there while we got it, Cory. Working out is part of my 7 days a week, every day. Now, do I actually work out 7 days? No. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 6. It's rarely less than 5, but that's only because, if I manage to get in a set of, say, dumbbell curls or something like that, or a set of push-ups, it counts, right? Because the fact that I built it in there, it's a daily thing. I'm likely to do it the next day if I did it today. Even I used to think I was just used to think I was dogging it, right, in the gym. I had dogged it. It wasn't worth it. No, you got to count it, right? So at least you get it. Like you said, you may cut it short a little bit because you got to get the email. Even if you cut it short, it still counts, right?
Yeah, no 0 days.
No 0 days. We got your back, Steve. You there, Steve? I think he's somewhere.
Visually, he's there.
Somewhere in internet land. So we're gonna take this to the next one. So we want to roll into the next one. So we're talking about faith a lot here, right? So we want to hashtag audience bounce back faith. So talk to us a little bit, Cory, about this. What role does faith play in helping you rise again after setbacks?
Well, faith is a huge part of my journey, and I haven't always been strong in my faith. I grew up in a Christian home, but then I got distracted and kind of wandered through college and in my 20s, and it kind of took hitting the bottom a couple of times to then lean on faith. And so for me, my faith has been just significant in this journey. And I know there's some individuals who don't have a faith, don't believe in a faith. For me, it's just been the foundation. And that, that looks like from, scripture, reading those truths that I can help, align my life to. And then the other is through prayer. Man, it is wild how much clarity we can get when we take our challenges to prayer. When we're frustrated, I'll get a nudge. I'll have a sense of peace of what I want to do. Now, that doesn't mean every quiet time I have, am I getting all my prayers answered? I feel like I can go weeks without getting the answer to something.
Yeah.
But for me, having faith is helping me continue to get back up.
Yeah, I want to add on to that. For people who, are varying faiths or don't even really have it or would question prayer. I mean, I'll tell you, prayer absolutely works in my life. I mean, 100% it works, period. I don't want to just say even my life. It just works. I mean, you just got to understand what it actually means to do that. It's about giving it up a little bit. We talked about trying for results. When you're trying to grind and steer the results your way, what you're doing is you're bucking against everything that you're actually setting out to do. So that bounce back faith, I get it. When I lean on that, because sometimes it gets so darn hard that you want to break. And, I heard you talk a little bit about people having to deal with depression. I know people like that. Again, I haven't experienced it personally in a clinical form, but I have had those times where I just feel like I'm worthless. All right, what's the point? And then, you say a prayer or you just get thankful. I'll go outside, walk my property, just listen to the birds, notice the breeze, the sunshine, all that stuff to really ground myself. That's the kind of faith that I believe we're talking about. And that's taking it off yourselves, a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another big part of my faith journey, Rob, was, I would take my identity so often as my success, my job title, how much money I was making. And obviously that's always fleeting. I mean, I've been fired. I haven't got the next job. Someone got promoted over me. And even in coaching, speaking world, if I take my identity to successful book sales or LinkedIn likes or speaking on this stage, well, it all changes. Someone will speak on a bigger stage, or I won't get invited to the next engagement. I mean, who knows? And so when we take our identity, our value, our worth to temporary things, it is disappointing and it is so discouraging. What I ended up learning, and it was kind of, taught to me, was this idea of, hey, that we're all beloved sons and daughters of God. And that's our identity. So when I started taking my identity to the fact that I'm a beloved son, and from that, I am approved. And so I can work from a position of approval as opposed to always looking for approval. Yeah. And that has been so powerful for me that if I lose a client, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm cheering, but it's okay. I'll move on. I'll find another one because I'm a beloved son.
Yeah. I usually would just think like, there's probably a reason I didn't get that client. They could have been a nightmare. Maybe they didn't pay. Maybe they just made me highly stressed, whatever it is. I don't question that kind of thing, because you could spend, a day, just beating yourself up or just going, what the heck? I worked so hard for it. And now I lost it. This is terrible. Right. But, look, when they say when one door closes, another one opens. All right, we got Steve back.
Speaking of one door opening, yeah, I'm back. I don't know what the heck happened, but Rob, I know that I'm in great hands with you. So I know we're at the very bottom of the hour, so I appreciate it. I'm gonna, Cory, you have something you want to offer up our community real quick? I don't know if I missed that part already, but did you offer that up already?
Well, thank you very much, Steve, Rob, for having me on, and it was enjoyable talking to you. And Rob, way to pick up when Steve was getting frozen. Well done.
We're all pros here, Cory. We're pros.
Yeah, that's right. and as far as what to offer up, I mean, if I said anything that interested, intrigued anyone, reach out. I love connecting with folks, and see if I could be of help in any way, from coaching to speaking, or just offering a chat. But Rise Community is a community I run for men who want to talk about homework and faith. We have leadership coaching calls every Monday from 12 to 1. So rise-community.com, and love to seeing you folks in there as a way to grow.
You're amazing. And best way to reach you is on LinkedIn, or any other ways that you would like the community to reach out to you?
LinkedIn's the best. I'm active. You'll see me there. So please connect and DM me there.
Awesome. We appreciate you. We're going to have you jump into the green room, but look forward to connecting again. Appreciate you big time.
Thank
Cory.
you, guys.
Talk soon. All right. Well, again, apologies for the technical stuff here, but I appreciate everybody. Rob, big shout out to you. Big kudos to you on keeping the ball rolling here. But don't forget, community, next week, same bat time, same bat channel, episode 213 on the 28th. We're going to be leading full throttle with Paul Comfort. It's going to be a great show. If you want to learn more about the Master Connector show and some of the up and coming episodes, I know Rob G is in the process of updating with, we're booked out all the way through the year, and then the following year a little bit more. So it's just crazy. So we're just incredible guests. So go to masterconnector.show. And then also, if you're interested in being a sponsor, go there as well, masterconnector.show, to learn how you can be a sponsor. But I want to talk about, before we close down real quick here, on a little story, right? I like to end with the story. And NFL Hall of Famer Kurt Warner went undrafted, worked stocking shelves at a grocery store, and nearly gave up on his dream of playing professional football. Instead, he held on to his faith and trust in God, God's timing, and rose again, eventually leading the St. Louis Rams. No, there's no such thing as the Rams anymore, right? But to a Super Bowl victory and earning the league MVP honors, right? Warner's story is proof that when life knocks you down, faith and persistence can lift you into purpose far beyond your imagination. So, folks, let's have faith. Rise above the challenges of life so we can lead the way and succeed, and ultimately shine our light. God bless, and see you next week.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.